It is often said that color and race shouldn't matter. If that were true, why did Europeans deceptively change the images of historically black people to white? If color and race didn't matter, one must ask, why then was the history of black people whitewashed? Hollywood always cast ancient biblical characters as white. This deception programs the viewer to envision white people when reading scripture. During the Renaissance period, a huge makeover of history took place with a paintbrush and a lie. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen hath sought to paint the likeness of their images. For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48 and 51.
Today, there are only 66 books in the Bible. The late 19th century 1611 King James Version Bible, used by clergy and church members, contained 80 books. Who removed the other 14 books, known as the Apocrypha, out of the original Bible? There are several passages in the Bible that mention books not included, such as the book of Jasher. 2 Samuel chapter 1 verses 17 to 18 in the King James Version. And David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. The book of Jasher is mentioned in the Bible, but the book itself was not included. There are actually hundreds of scriptures and transcripts that were found and not added to the Bible. This was done by the same people that changed and distorted history. Why? Did they have something to hide? The book of Enoch contains some very interesting information in which many Christians are not familiar with. Western scholars believe that the book of the Watchers, which is contained in the book of Enoch, date from about 300 BC, and the latest portion, the book of Parables, was probably composed at the end of the 1st century BC. This pretty much validates the book. Not to mention the Tertullian, 160 to 230 CE, even called the book of Enoch Holy Scripture. The Ethiopic Church even added the book of Enoch to its official Bible. It is wholly extant only in the Ge'ez language, with Aramaic fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls and a few Greek and Latin fragments. This information alone has proven the authenticity of the book of Enoch.
It's generally taught in the churches today that Noah's 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, represent 3 groups of people. Ham, the black man, Japheth, the white man, and Shem, everyone in between. If you look a little closer in the scriptures, you'll see that it reveals the truth about those 3 boys.
And after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech. And she became pregnant by him and bore a son. And his body was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. And the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife, opened his mouth, and conversed with the Lord of righteousness. And his father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. And he said unto him, I have begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man, and resembling the sons of the God of heaven. and his nature is different, and he is not like us. And his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels. And I fear that in his days a wonder may be wrought on the earth. And now, my Father, I am here to petition thee, and implore thee, that thou mayest go to Enoch our father, and learn from him the truth. For his dwelling place is amongst the angels.
If a black couple has an albino child today, is that child considered black or white? We all know that they're still considered black, even with the presence of white skin. This albino offspring is still capable of producing children with normal brown skin. This was the case of Noah. Noah was a black albino man with a black wife and had black children, and we will prove this. Notice how Noah's father Lamech responded to him at his birth. He responded in abject fear. He wondered why his son's skin was white. He questioned if he was the child of angels, and doubted that he even belonged to him. His concern was that his son looked nothing like him or his wife. Now, if Lamech himself or his wife were white, why would they be surprised at the appearance of their son? The fact that Noah had black parents gives you an indication that he himself was not a white child, as in European, but an albino. This image is a prime example of the case of Noah, an albino dad with a black wife and 3 normal-looking children. Albino does not equate to European. Ham, the father of Mizraim, also known as Egypt, and Shem, the father of the Hebrews, more importantly the children of Israel, all look the same in appearance. Even Zondervan's Bible Dictionary prints the following: Ham is the father of the dark races, Africans, but not the Negroes. So then who is the father of the Negroes? Shem or Japheth?
Description of the Hebrews. The walls of Egypt gave a description of the people that lived there, and since the children of Israel were slaves there for more than 100 years, wouldn't there be images of the true Israelites on the walls? But how do we know what they looked like, and what did they wear? If we look closely at the scriptures, we can see with our own eyes what they must have looked like. In Amos chapter 9:7, it says,
Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord? Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt?
The children of Israel resembled the Ethiopians, which are actually Cushites, descendants of Ham's son Cush. Europeans refer to them as Nubians. Let's compare the description of the Israelites in the scriptures with the images of the so-called Nubians on the walls of Egypt. The Israelite men and women wore golden earrings as recorded in Exodus chapter 32, verses 2-3.
And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us, for as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me.
The Israelite priests, which were men, wore bonnets upon their heads, a cap as hemispherical, as recorded in Leviticus 8:13.
And Moses brought Aaron's sons, and put coats upon them, and girded them with girdles, and put bonnets upon them, as the Lord commanded Moses.
The Israelites wore fringes upon their garments, as recorded in Numbers 15:37-38.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations.
The Israelite priests, which were men, wore a scarlet color, red girdle. The Hebrew word for girdle is abnate, which means a belt. Hebrew dictionary, belted, girded with, as recorded in Exodus 39:29.
and a girdle of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, of needlework, as the Lord commanded Moses.
The Apostle Paul even wore a girdle, as recorded in Acts 21:11. They were a dark-skinned people. When the scriptures describe Yeshua, the one known to the world as Jesus, it mentions that he had skin like brass in the King James Bible.
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters.
This is what the translators want you to believe. But if you do your research, you'll see that this was not true. The actual Greek and Hebrew word means burnished copper, but the Strong's Greek translation says whiteness, which is a deceptive translation. Have you ever seen a white-looking burnt penny? What are they really trying to say? That the Messiah was white? The actual meaning was brightness, like the shine of a copper coin. Notice brass is more yellow-looking, whereas copper has a more bronze appearance. Why did white translators interpret burnished copper as the whiteness of brass instead of the brightness of brass or the shine? It's also worthy to mention that the Messiah's hair was like wool, and his feet looked as if they burned in a furnace, as recorded in Revelation 1:16. When Paul was giving instructions to Timothy about the apparel of the women, he said that the women shouldn't wear braided hair, as recorded in 1 Timothy 2:9. Black women are known to wear braids. The scripture also mentions that Samson, Solomon, the Levite priest, Samuel, and Joshua, known to the world as Jesus, all had locks of hair on their heads.
Let's first look at Joseph. His brothers sold him to the Egyptians, and years later when the famine came, his brothers didn't recognize Joseph the Hebrew. He was mistaken as a natural-born Egyptian, Mizraim of the seed of Ham, a black man. If Joseph was white, he would have stood out among the Egyptians. Let's not forget, Egypt is Mizraim, the son of Ham. Moses also was mistaken for an Egyptian. Think about it. When Moses was born, Pharaoh sent orders to kill every Hebrew son that was born. But you know the story. Moses' mother put him in an ark, and Pharaoh's daughter found him and raised him as her own child right under Pharaoh's nose. Now you know if Moses did not look like the Egyptians, then Pharaoh would have killed that young boy. Moses could have actually become Pharaoh if he continued to be called the grandson of a Pharaoh. The Hebrews and the Egyptians looked just alike. As a matter of fact, Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian by the daughters of the Midian priests. They said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds and drew water enough for us. The names were changed in the Bible to hide the true identity of the people. Had the scriptures referred to Moses said a Mizraimian or a Hamite delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, then everyone would have known that Moses was black. Paul was even mistaken as an Egyptian or a descendant of Ham. Another point I want to bring out is that Yeshua, the one that everyone refers to as Jesus, was not the same nationally as the religious leaders in Jerusalem. Yeshua was from the bloodline of Yehuda or Judah. When you look at the origin of the word Jew, we have Yehuda, which means Judah, pertaining to Judah. Now you know Judah, along with the other 11 tribes of Israel, were in bondage in Egypt. It's recorded in the book of Exodus. The story of the 10 Commandments and how Yah delivered them from bondage of the Egyptians. Well, how is it that we have these so-called Jews in this passage saying that they were never in bondage?
Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, We be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, Ye shall be made free?
Did you get that? Did you hear that? They said they were never in bondage. Well, if they were of the seed of Jacob, they couldn't make that statement. Well, that's because they were Jewish converts. They were proselytes, Edomites, descendants of Esau. Notice that they told Yeshua that they were of the seed of Abraham, and Yeshua agreed with them. Indeed, that they were of the seed of Abraham. That's because they were descendants of Jacob's brother Esau.
Mara! Sanda masa! Tukuta masa! Ploma jonkana! Isaka denke! Kapol na bla Ibrahim mala! Kapol me mara mala! Isloma jonna Isau donso karak mala! Yakuba koroke!
Herod the king was an Edomite. The Herods were an Edomite family that ruled Israel during the time of Yeshua's earthly ministry. The Jewish council, called the Sanhedrin, was under the authority of the Herods, who were in turn under the authority of the Roman emperor. Therefore, at the time of Yeshua, Edomites were throughout the land of Israel and ruling the true Israelites, which were black. In the land of Israel, we have proselytes claiming to be Jews.